Po.
Can't beat a hollow warning. What disaster supplies should you buy? Don't know the escape route. Don't panic. The answer's here. Bang nose. Bang nose. Bang rude nose.
Yeah, 9 hours. How awesome.
How about a little late night adventure? I promise you'll love it.
Let's go here. Or not. What does she want? She wants HP percent, so this one. Energy recharge. I should percent energy recharge. And more HP percent. And more energy recharge. Okay, let's check instant. Oh. Here. Let's start with... Actually,
How about a little late night adventure? I promise you'll love it.
selecting you as a target and try out. Mm-hmm. 22 out of 37. Swing just triple percent HP. Let's leave it as is. Mm-hmm. 58, a lot of stuff here, everything here. 5 after 10.
Sure.
Nice. A trail behind her. Plus 18. Plus another 18 probably. Maybe a bit more.
Being happy is what counts. My turn.
Okay, let's make this quick.
Oh, that was enough. Great. No.
This weather's perfect for a little exploring.
Just enough. More stuff. But got tail. Nice. Here. And this is what I want. This is a bit weaker. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay. Maybe I can get energy regen with 3%. Eesh. Okay. Let's go like this. Here I go for what I already have, I guess. Oh. And here I go for this. Come on, HP percent. But HP, okay. HP percent twice. Okay. Twice into HP percent, please. No. Your crit isn't even that good because she doesn't deal that much damage. Go into HP percent, please. Okay, at least once. %. 3 times, please. Well, I mean, I'm supposed to go 3 times into HP percent. If there isn't even enough HP percent to go around. HP 3 times, crit rate once. Ah, come on. None into flip defense. Come on, sensitive. Crit rate? Crit rate. Please don't go into a pub. It went once. Straight. Twice into HP percent. Okay, that's not bad. It's a bit better what I currently have. 14 trait. 20 HP. How much HP does she need? How does it work?
This weather's perfect for a little exploring.
Okay. Shop.
A cup of coffee isn't just for the early birds. It can also be for the night owls.
Okay.
Out of my way! I'll take you!
Time for a surprise! Need a hand?
Let's make this quick.
Move it!
Plus 27. Not even close. Max additional sheer force. Not enough. Six 6.8. Six 6.9, and then 7. $900 divided by 7 equals, okay, 129 times 200 equals 25,800. Okay, 800. What does this one do? That's fine.
This weather's perfect for a little exploring.
take you.
Sorry.
Switch it up.
I'll make it painless. Let's make this quick. Stay focused.
Don't freak out,
Sure. Don't get hit.
Thomas, careful, don't get scared.
A little gift for ya. Hurts, don't it?
Break time! Need a hand? Time to keep things classy.
No escape.
Friendly Georges. Video called Stop.
It's a pretty grand indictment on some of the political class of New South Wales and pretty much all the media in Australia that 3 years after the firebombing of my house by organised crime, one of the most high-profile and prolific public advocates for justice for getting to the bottom of exactly who ordered the firebombing isn't even from Australia, let alone New South Wales. A literal Florida man is doing way more than a lot of political figures who I once held in quite high esteem. Yep, Charlie once again is coming to my rescue and making a video about the firebombing, continuing his principled stance against firebombings in general. In case you're not up to speed with this whole firebombing business, you can watch a bunch of my videos on it in the playlist linked in the description, but I'll give you a brief rundown. I make videos about a range of topics and people. Let's leave it at that. And in 2022, someone really didn't like some of the videos and ordered that my house get burnt down. And in the years since the firebombing, New South Wales Police launched an investigation. They made some arrests and just a few weeks ago secured a conviction against one of the firebomers. Now, what Charlie reiterated in his video about this conviction is something I want to reiterate right now.
No, they know everything that needs to be known about his motive. He was hired to do it. He was the muscle. Hired by who? Cares. Who cares? They don't give a fuck. Just gonna send him to jail for just a little brief period of time here and just let this whole thing quietly die down so that way people don't ask too many questions about this whole firebombing, hoopla, that kind of thing. Because there's no need to dig any deeper on who might have paid for this kind of thing to happen. You know, it's just, it was the muscle. Ah, come on, let's move on.
The firebombing was a planned attack. Its purpose was to send a message. That message being, do not talk about certain people and their activities anymore. And those certain people were not the hired muscle, as I've never spoken about Toofy, whatever his name is before, the guy who actually did the physical firebombing. But I must admit, I do know now who and what I'm not allowed to talk about. So there's a paradox. If the firebombing was designed to send that message, and I got that message loud and clear, mind you, I got that same message additionally multiple times after the firebombing too, how can the state fail to even get one single charge up on the people who ordered the firebombing? If I know who they are, if the audience can deduce who they are, if the police know who they are, if everyone on Macquarie Street knows who they are, why haven't they been charged? You could wave it away and say, oh, the burden of proof is too high for a charge, but I will tell you right now that more than enough has happened since the firebombing that warrants at least certain charges or avenues of inquiry against certain individuals at the very least. Unfortunately, to the best of my knowledge, these are things that the police have not yet explored. But I am completely willing to give the authorities the benefit of the doubt on this one and will happily wait and cross my fingers for a charge. Who I'm not willing to give the benefit of the doubt to anymore are the politicians who have decided in the wake of the firebombing of my house, in the wake of my work, the wake of the very public ventilation of the associations of prior convictions of certain businessmen, in the wake of shootings and murders on Sydney streets every few weeks, to work with a certain construction company, to meet with them, to build them up, to help them become one of the largest developers in New South Wales. I'm sorry, but I've got to name these people. Former Premier Maurice Yemmer, who took up a lobbying contract with this company. The New South Wales Housing Minister Rose Jackson, who's taken meetings with this company and visited their sites. Former Federal Government Minister, self-styled fixer and machine hack, Darth Vader without his helmet. Sorry, I mean Graham Richardson, who, while I'm glad that this absolutely plays into his happy to get down and dirty aesthetic, he was listed as a representative of this company at a meeting with Rose Jackson. This has to stop. If the federal government can expel Iran's ambassadors for alleged firebombings with far less proof than the circumstances surrounding this firebombing, the state government can most certainly cut ties and collaboration with this company. I get that the government's trying to address a housing crisis, and unlike the last government, actually is, and I applaud them for taking serious action on this. Australia might be short on materials and construction workers, but if there's one thing that they're not short of in the building game, it's developers happy to make a quick buck off the government. Up until now, you could have pretended not to have known any better, but not anymore. If the firebombing was designed to send me a message, consider this my verbal firebombing to you in the form of a literal message. As lucky for you guys, unlike the people you work with, I'm not as desperate and filthy of an animal whose only instinct is to resort to violence in the pursuit of profit, but my message is, can you stop? Can you end any associations with this company and these people immediately? You know better. Thank you very, very much, Charlie, for talking about this topic in particular. I do want to highlight this part.
And it's not just him. He does have a team as well that takes the same risk. They have some very powerful enemies over there. And it is very clear that they are willing to go to extreme lengths to silence Geordie's and his team.
He's not wrong. As you can probably tell from this video, we do deal with some pretty hectic stuff, and it's not just me sticking my neck out. There's an entire team with me who are quite frankly overworked and underpaid to make the videos that we put out. It's a pretty stressful job, and they get paid from our Patreon. Please consider supporting us there. It's the cost of an OK coffee every single month, and the amount of societal value that this channel produces, especially for the size of it, I think it's worth that coffee. Now, we've said this before, but all of us could have much easier lives than we currently do. It would be so easy to increase the number of views by doing less risky, more clickable, monetizable, advertiser-friendly work. It would also be about a quarter of the effort, mind you, which would be a nice bonus. But the reason we push on despite the obvious dangers that come with this job is because, as you can clearly see, no one else is willing to do it. It's not like we enjoy doing it. We could all be doing different things. We do it purely because we think it's civically necessary and socially responsible to do. And if you think the same, your support wouldn't just help us continue going, more importantly, it would help us expand. All money made off of Patreon goes to wages. The more money we have, the more wages we can cover, the more work gets done. Thanks for your time. Actually, on making this video, we did go back and watch when we first found out about the firebombing. And that really cemented to me what a Vulture Place New South Wales is. Look at how the media reacted at first glance.
In case you haven't heard, and the press did everything that they possibly could to make sure that you know exactly where I live.
Here on Wilga Street, because of who lives here out the back, YouTuber and political comedian Jordan Shanks.
Thank you very much, you vultures. My house was burned down to some degree. I don't know, I haven't seen it yet because I just came back from a tour. So we're going to go now and look at the damage. But yeah, it looks like it was some heavy hitters. There's obviously a few suspects that I might be divulging in a press conference soon. And let's see how much those sacks of sorry vermin let go to the news. Because so far their story has been, with so many enemies and so many people hating him, it's a wonder that this hasn't happened sooner. Oh, okay, so you wish death on me. Thanks so much.
Police admit given Shanks' controversial videos posted online, there may be a long list of people who have issues with him.
Why does Stefanov make so many videos right now? It's uncanny. Was it made with egg?
Давайте послушаем. Господи упаси. В этом гайде мы расскажем, как эффективно избавляться от всякой нечисти, но перед этим дисклеймер. Это видео было записано на специальном тестовом сервере. Если к релизу что-то поменяется, то мы напишем об этом в закрепленном комментарии. Кирилл Чудомирович Флинц играет от реакции «Лунный заряд». Подробнее про это смотрите в гайде на Инефу, ну а мы сразу перейдем к талантам. Элементальный навык переводит Флинца в особое состояние. Его обычные и заряженные атаки теперь наносят электроурон, при этом он имеет повышенную устойчивость. Обратите внимание, что атаки Кирилла очень слабые. Обычные атаки нужны только для того, чтобы генерировать частицы энергии. Они создаются с откатом в 2 секунды. Используйте элементальный навык повторно, чтобы нанести небольшой урон и получить усиление. В течение следующих 6 секунд Флинц может использовать особый взрыв стихии, который наносит тонну урона лунным зарядом. Это основной источник урона Кирилла. Если действует высшее сияние, то взрыв стихии наносит урон дважды. Для этого необходимо, чтобы поблизости были грозовые тучи от лунного заряда. Напоминаем, что высшее сияние — это когда в отряде 2 персонажа из нот края. Вернемся к элементальному навыку. У входа в стойку откат 16 секунд, но второй навык имеет отдельный откат. Он фиксирован и равен 6 секундам. Таким образом, за время стойки в 10 секунд вы сможете использовать взрыв стихии дважды. Если подытожить, то ротация Флинца выглядит так. Навык, взрыв стихии. Через 6 секунд снова навык и взрыв стихии. Между делом используйте обычные атаки. Их урон небольшой, но они дают частицы энергии. В идеале надо атаковать хотя бы один раз в самом начале. У генерации частиц откат 2 секунды, и мы хотим запустить его как можно раньше. Итоговая ротация выглядит так. Навык, атака, навык, взрыв стихии. Затем обычные атаки и в конце снова навык и взрыв стихии. Как только вы использовали второй взрыв стихии, то все, на этом урон Флинса заканчивается. Играть за него дальше смысла нет, так что поменяйте персонажей. При желании вы можете остаться на Кирилле подольше, но обычными атаками много урона вы не нанесете. Это можно делать ради энергии и если позволяет отряд, но стремиться к этому не стоит. Впрочем, в некоторых ситуациях вам придется это делать. Если вам не хватает энергии на взрыв стихии, то понадобится время, чтобы накопить энергию. Главное сделать это в течение 6 секунд, пока действует усиление после навыка. Отметим, что оно продолжает действовать даже после того, как заканчивается стойка. Однако смена персонажа сбрасывает его. Итак, мы разобрали основную ротацию Кирилла, но это еще не все. Все это время мы использовали особую версию взрыва стихии. Она стоит 30 энергии из максимальных 80. Но у Флинса есть еще и обычный взрыв стихии. Он тоже наносит высокий урон по области, большая часть которого считается лунным зарядом. При высшем сиянии он наносит чуть-чуть больше урона, если поблизости есть грозовые тучи. Этот взрыв стихии стоит аж 80 энергии, однако по урону он лишь немногим сильнее взрыва за 30. Как правило, тратить на это энергию невыгодно. Однако мы можем поступать так. Смотрите, навык и большой взрыв стихии, затем навык и маленький взрыв стихии, и опять навык и взрыв. Это самая сильная ротация Флинса, однако она очень требовательна по энергии. Здесь мы использовали взрыв стихии целых 3 раза, один за 80 энергии и 2 за 30. Немногие отряды способны генерировать так много энергии за ротацию. Напоминаем про отрыв с направлением частиц энергии. Взрыв стихии Флинса расходует энергию в самом начале анимации, так что он может поймать частицы союзников других персонажей уже в пустую шкалу. В любом случае, даже с этим трюком вы вряд ли сможете использовать ротацию каждый раз. Вместо этого лучше быть гибким и использовать обе ротации. Идея вот в чем. Для обычной ротации Кириллу надо всего лишь 60 энергии, но зачастую он будет восстанавливать намного больше. Это может произойти по разным причинам. Например, у вас есть электроперсонаж вместе с электрорезонансом, или вам в любом случае нужны погони для других персонажей в отряде, или вы играете против врагов, с которых падает много частиц, или вам просто повезло на восстановление энергии в артефакте. Суть в том, что у вас может быть избыток энергии. Для большинства персонажей лишняя энергия бесполезна, им тупо некуда ее тратить. Но Кирилл не такой. Он тщательно перевезет всю свою энергию в своем фонаре. Рано или поздно вы накопите лишний 80 энергии, и тогда вы сможете использовать большой взрыв стихии. И для этого вам не придется ничем жертвовать. Если подытожить, то основная идея игры за Флинса следующая. Если на начало ротации у него есть 80 энергии, то используйте большой взрыв стихии. Если же энергии не хватает, то ограничьтесь только взрывами за 30. По мере боя используйте оба варианта в зависимости от того, сколько энергии в наличии. Разумеется, это зависит от отряда. Если другие союзники генерируют слишком мало энергии, то лучше не экспериментировать и делать простые ротации. Нам осталось только разобрать пассивные навыки. Флинс повышает самому себе мастерство стихий, максимум 160 единиц. Для этого надо собрать 2000 силы атаки. Также он повышает базовый урон лунного заряда на 14%. Для этого тоже нужно 2000 силы атаки. Флинс является представителем Нот-Края, повышает лунное знамение на 1 уровень. При высшем сиянии его урон лунного заряда повышается на 20%. Сам по себе этот бонус небольшой, но напоминаем, что при высшем сиянии у него также улучшается взрывы стихии. Вот там бонусы уже огромные. Напоследок таланты для открытого мира. Флинс отмечает диковинку Нот-Края на мини-карте. Шепот дикой охоты мы уже слышали и сполна насладились. Но у Кирилла есть еще одна фишка. Когда поблизости монстры, его фонарь светится красным. А если вы дадите ему его сигнатурное кольцо, то фонарь на нем тоже будет светиться красным. Давайте подводить итог. Флинс это без сомнения очень мощный ДД, однако он ограничен в отряде. Он играет от лунного заряда и наличие хотя бы одного гидра обязательно. Также он играет от взрыва стихии, то есть ему нужна энергия. Нельзя сказать, что второй электроперсонаж обязателен, но крайне желательно. И самое главное, нужен второй персонаж из Нот-Края. Без него он теряет слишком много урона взрыва стихии. В теории играть из высшего сияния можно, если фокусироваться на взрыве стихии за 80 энергии. Он теряет не так много урона, но это сложно рекомендовать. Лучше всего для Флинса подходит и Нефа. Она повышает базовый урон лунного заряда, а также дает бонус мастерства стихии для себя и активного персонажа. Помимо бонусов, она является щитовиком, а также сама наносит мощный урон лунным зарядом. Немаловажен тот факт, что Кирилл тоже повышает базовый урон лунного заряда, то есть благодаря ему урон Нефы тоже повышается. В качестве гидроперсонажа стоит взять Айну. Даже если вы уже активировали высшее сияние, она все равно сильнее других гидроперсонажей.
В Хабаровском крае есть село и военный городок Князе-Волконское. 10 октября там открыли новый мемориальный комплекс. Сыновья убитого на фронте сержанта зажгли вечный огонь. На заднем плане стена с фамилиями погибших, начиная с 23 года. Только на этом снимке видны 10 столбцов. В крайнем слева 33 строки, со 2 по 7 и в 9 32, в 8 22, а в последнем 11. Всего 290 человек. Фамилии и инициалы тех, кто погиб в 22-м, размещены отдельно на 2 полукруглых обелисках. Там еще 132 военнослужащих. Не ясна логика архитектора. Зачем он их отделил? Но получилось символично. В Князе-Волконском находится пункт постоянной дислокации печально известной 64-й мотострелковой бригады. Именно к ней относятся увековеченные на мемориале. Это одно из тех соединений, которые действовали в Буче и Андреевке. Солдаты и офицеры, погибшие в первый год войны, с большой долей вероятности относятся к первоначальному составу соединения, который замешан в военных преступлениях, совершенных под Киевом в первые недели вторжения. Сегодня поговорим о той бригаде и обсудим открытый мемориал и военные потери. Эта тема будет актуальной даже через годы после окончания войны, а сейчас тем более. Только прежде чем начнем, напомню, по ссылке в описании собраны бесплатные способы ускорения Ютуба и обхода блокировки звонков в WhatsApp и Telegram. Спонсор рубрики Max Swap. Они выпускают недорогие виртуальные карты, которыми можно расплачиваться за границей. В марте 23 года Хабаровский гарнизонный суд приговорил к 5,5 годам условно 22-летнего ефрейтора из 64-й бригады Данила Фролкина. Тот в разговоре с журналистами важных историй дал показания на командиров, виновных в грабежах и убийствах гражданских, в издевательствах над своими же подчиненными. В том числе указал на комбрига Азатбека Амурбекова, которому Путин в 22-м присвоил звание Героя России. Сам Фролкин сознался в убийстве одного мирного жителя. Но уголовное дело он получил, конечно, не за это. Не за исполнение заведомо преступного приказа, что так-то предусмотрено Российским уголовным кодексом, а за распространение фейков о российской армии. При этом 22-го из 64-й бригады смог бежать другой военнослужащий, 27-летний Никита Чебрин. Он выбрался за границу и также дал показания о военных преступлениях. Тем же летом важные истории со ссылкой на источники из бригады сообщили. Из соединения пытаются уволиться около 700 человек. При этом штатная численность мотострелковой бригады в среднем составляет примерно 3,5 тысячи штыков. После понесенных потерь и того меньше. Некоторым тогда уволиться удалось. Это было очень сложно, но еще не невозможно. Контракты с Минобороны стали бессрочными и нерасторгаемыми только в сентябре 22-го. Боевой путь у 64-й бригады максимально бесславный. Преступления и бегство личного состава. И очень большие потери. Только по 2 фотографиям с мемориала можно насчитать 422 человека. Это не учитывая пропавших без вести и покалеченных. Однако командующей частью стал Героем России. В самой бригаде Путин вскоре после Бучи присвоил почетное наименование «Гвардейская». Теперь вот зажгли вечный огонь, а это совсем не заурядная почесть. Особенно для Хабаровского края, где «Газпром» прежде поддерживал постоянное пламя всего в 2 местах – в Хабаровске и Комсомольске-на-Амуре. Для понимания, в Князе-Волконском у мемориала павшим в Великой Отечественной войне никакого вечного огня нет. Он есть у памятника бригаде, которая прославилась на весь мир военными преступлениями. На местном канале архитектор мемориала поделился подробностями. Как постарались даже протектор на обуви скульптуры сделать максимально аутентичным. Как изучали современные нашивки. Но в эфире не прозвучало, почему у статуи
Is my client a perfect man? No.
I killed him, yeah.
Monado is the newest A-rank fire rupture agent and the second ever free DPS to be given.
Hey gang, get in the comments because we have the world famous Brennan Lee Mulligan. You are, well, I'm gonna say it, inarguably the greatest GM on the planet.
That's such a nice thing to say about somebody. You're my favorite legal content creator of all time on YouTube.
I only know of a few GMs.
I only know of a few legal content creators, yeah. So,
you're here today as a very thin reed for me to go through some legal clips in the Dropout universe. I will say I'm probably going to disappoint a whole bunch of people who just would love nothing more than for me to pick your brain about Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. That's not what we're here for.
I can tell you why the Vulture, though.
It's not legal. We're not talking about it.
Although, maybe the jurisdiction of the Vulture dimension...
if you want to make a legal campaign, actually, that probably would be fun.
Kermit the Frog representing himself on a murder charge.
Well, golly, I understand that the prosecution has presented a really compelling case.
Did anyone know that you do a Kermit the Frog before?
No, they did not.
That's a great Kermit the
Hey,
Frog.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. You start with that, and the little, huh.
Obviously, Fozzie Bear was a close friend.
Oh, no.
But ask yourself this question. If I were to be the one that killed Fozzie Bear, why would I have recorded going to see him alone that night? Wouldn't I have wanted to cover that up? Doesn't this speak that I've been framed? My name written in the ledger of the motel was written in pink glittery ink.
When did it cross your mind that you were going to turn it into Miss Piggy?
Kermit representing himself on a murder charge. Immediately, I'm like, did Kermit do it? No, Kermit didn't do it. Kermit is Kermit. He is the most unalloyed, pure good.
And you could take that in the other direction because it would be so funny if Kermit was a hardened murderer.
If he's like, I'll do it again. Yeah. You know, like in a heartbeat. If he's on trial for murder, it means that there's a preponderance of evidence that exists to suggest that he did. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made it to this point. You can't prove you didn't do it if the burden of proof is such that you go, can I create enough doubt that we get this into the
I mean, that's exactly what you would be thinking as a special.
If Kermit didn't do it, who did it? Well, who's the most violent Muppet? It's Miss Piggy. Miss Piggy has a track record of physical violence that is pretty scary.
Yes, he is in a violent sexual relationship and has been for the last 40 years.
For a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, my heart goes out to Kermit. I hope he finds the courage he needs to walk away.
A defendant stupidly interrupting his
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, over the past 4 days, you have seen state prosecutor attempt to effectively bamboozle you with a series of hearsay arguments and loose speculative evidence, placing my client near the scene of the crime during the time of the murder. This evidence does nothing to indicate motive or means in the horrific murder of Roger Bell. Ultimately, it will be your decision to say, does this man deserve a lifetime in a federal penitentiary based on cohesive, inconclusive evidence? You are tasked to consider the evidence and whether it proves beyond a reasonable doubt whether my client is guilty. Is my client a perfect man? No. I used to say that in courtroom scenes are such fertile ground for comedy. Comedians are looking for the ability to disrupt expectations. And the formality of a courtroom provides such rich and fertile soil for doing something stupid. Would I be allowed to say bamboozle?
Yeah, you could. I think you would probably not want to use the word specious because that's... I'm sure people would figure it out in context, but you want to basically talk at roughly like a fourth grade level. And it doesn't change the persuasiveness at all. But I don't think that that's really necessary. And
you know, you don't need to tell the jury that it's their decision. They know it's their decision. It is probably a good idea to front run some of the bad things about your crime. But you have to be kind of careful about it. You know, you probably don't want to emphasize the horrific nature of the killing. You probably want to emphasize that it's more of a tragedy. And it would also be a further tragedy when there's an innocent man
That's really good. Because no one likes that tragedy. People want to keep it at one if they can.
Of course. The biggest myth I could have is that you're sort of admitting that the state has proven that the client is near the scene of the crime. When you probably don't want to make that admission unless they had stone cold evidence. But it sounds like this lawyer is saying it's not proven. And you know, motive, it's a nice to have, but it's not an element to the crime.
Oh, interesting.
So, you know, motive and objectivity are things that are persuasive, but they're not necessary to prove murder.
Is it necessary to prove that it was like premeditated, or
it can be. Again, you know, motive is sort of a piece of evidence that would inform the mens rea and the mental state, you know, whether it's murder 1 or murder 2.
Gotcha.
But it is generally not required.
Did you like how I kept bringing up the reasonable doubt?
Excellent. Excellent point. I mean, I'm splitting hairs here. Excellent use of legal vernacular. So, I mean, I was on the floor the first time I ever saw that.
Now, sorry to interrupt, and it's always such a pleasure to talk to Brennan, but I just wanted to let you know that there's actually a ton of hilarious stuff that we had to cut from the YouTube version of this video. But you can watch the extended version by signing up for Nebula, the sponsor of this video. Because Nebula is a streaming service that we created where you can watch all the content from your favorite creators like Jetlag, Real Engineering, Real Life Lore, and of course, Legal Eagle, ad-free and early. Plus, you can watch countless Nebula exclusive videos made with love, time, effort, and increased budgets that would be too risky for YouTube. And at Nebula, we're in it for the longest possible term, a lifetime. And that's why you can click on the link below or scan the code on screen to get unlimited lifetime access to Nebula and start watching every Legal Eagle video ad-free and early forever. But you better hurry because that price is going up dramatically. But in fact, every video we've made this year is an extended cut on Nebula, including the beatdown that Dr. Mike and I did of The Good Doctor. On Nebula, it contains over 20 minutes of hilarious analysis that we had to cut from the YouTube version. And you can also check out tons of our exclusive content, like our video on how RFK Jr. can and cannot legally ban vaccines, or our video about unhinged judges that went too far, just to name a few. And if you love deep dives, then I highly recommend you check out Mad Kings. It's a brand new original series from our friends at Real Life Lore that explores the fascinating secret lives of dictators like Uday Hussein, the Mad Prince of Iraq. Because the tactics that dictators use to hang on to power behind the scenes is equally fascinating and is increasingly relevant. So if you want to support this channel and its mission to demystify the legal miasma that we live in, a great way to do so is by signing up for a lifetime subscription to Nebula. It's truly the best deal of all, or you can get 40% off the annual subscription. Either way, click or scan to get set up now and continue watching Legal Eagle on Nebula, or I'll see you in court.
Good cop, comrade cop. You can totally wait for your lawyer, or just, you know, we were just looking at this window of 2 to 3:30 today. There was sort of just a loud noise near your apartment. You're probably fine, you know?
I am working here to feed intel to the revolution. You should burn this place to the ground, but again, keep your mouth shut. Anything you say, this is going to twist it against you. Do you feel like law enforcement is so aware of good cop, bad cop now that it's lost its efficacy through public culture as a interrogation method?
Oh, absolutely not. If you find yourself in an interrogation room or in handcuffs, it is a terrifying experience. So you're probably looking for any thin reed of humanity. You know, they might have been in handcuffs for, you know, hours. So they might be dying for a cup of water. These are not great situations, and cops are allowed to use all kinds of tools at their disposal to get information out of you. I mean, they can lie to you, they can...
That's crazy.
I mean,
that's just crazy that we're like, whoa, it's not against the rules for the police to lie. What are we supposed to do if we can't lie? I mean, that's bonkers.
The first video I think I ever saw you in that is, honest to God, one of my favorite skits of all time is the Tide Pod CEO.
Hi, America. My name's David Taylor. I'm the CEO of...
Is that the real name of the CEO?
Yes, we changed that later.
Pods, which is what I want to talk to you about today. You gotta stop eating the Tide Pods, okay? Look, I get it. You guys are young, you're hip. You don't want an old guy telling you what to do. But Tide Pods are soap, and that's not food. So please, stop eating the Tide Pods.
It's such a great simulacra of an adult trying their best to associate with the younger people who are doing something stupid.
There's no way to win. As a camp counselor, you're like, how do I get the kids excited about caution? And you're like, you can't. It's the message you're trying to convey will fail. So you're like, hey guys, what's up, fam? I know we love to eat Tide Pods, but no cat. No cat. Inauthentic from the word go. It cannot be done. I love that fake corporate authenticity. Mwah, what an awful vibe that is so funny. I don't know what you kids are up to, but I do know one thing. Laws are threats made by the dominant socioeconomic ethnic group in a given nation.
Give me the setup here. What is this character and what has happened in this campaign so far?
This character is a halfling, which is like a hobbit, who works as a letter carrier for the post office. And they almost crashed into his car. While he and his family, his wife and who's a diner waitress, and his 3 young children were going to Basarar's soda fountain to get ice cream. So little family ice cream trip, and we had a scene where they almost hit this car. In the next episode, they start in the ice cream shop having ice cream. After they've been talking for like 10 minutes, the family's also at the table with them. So there's a thing where they're like, what are we gonna do if the cops get us? And I just had the halfling dad be like, kiddos, if you need to bag a cop, you're not gonna wanna put the body anywhere and they go, oh shit! And they're like, whoa, this little sweet Midwestern halfling dad is a hardened anarchist revolutionary. And that's where Bud Cubby was born, who is the guy who's talking now.
All right.
It's just a promise of violence that's enacted, and police are basically an occupying army. You know what I mean? You guys want to make some bacon? He pulls a mask over his face, pulls a lit Molotov cocktail out of his mailbag, and whew,
I was not expecting some Foucault in the middle of a D&D campaign. Because I figured you had to pull this from somewhere, and I know it's somewhere in Crime and Punishment or wherever. If you look up the phrase "law is threats,"
yeah,
it's only you on Google.
I'm so sorry.
One page of Google. It is only you doing this bit.
But it's funny because that's actually such a clinical. It's such a dry analysis of, in a lot of cases, like criminal statutes, which are literally, if you do this and we catch you and prove it, then we're going to do this.
People don't understand that even if you're talking about misdemeanors or, let's say, parking tickets, which can escalate if you don't pay them, all of that is in some way backed by force from the government.
The point Bud Cubby is making in this clip is that, like you're saying, all this stuff takes root in the state. I mean, even the term enforce, the word force is right there, right? What do we mean when we say you're not allowed to do that or you can't do that?
Yeah.
And the answer is usually, we're going to send some guys.
Well, thank you for being the first guest on my political theory podcast. Am I correct that you used to work for Law and Order?
I did.
Did you think you picked up aspects of that?
Yes, there was a ton of stuff we did on Law and Order that was extremely prescient in terms of like picking up legalese there. I've worked for many years as a camera PA on criminal intent, which is not the Law and Order that people tend to talk glowingly about. People reserve that for either SVU or Original Recipe Law and Order.
I think all lawyers or wannabe lawyers do learn the Law and Order theme song at one point. I learned the lead electric guitar part. It's not that hard.
Dude, the one that's like, that chord that comes in is it's tasty. You should go listen to the theme song. It's not too late for me to make a real career, and if this is like a good starting point, maybe law school could be in the cards.
You know, if D&D and improv don't work out, then yeah, let's get you as an associate for Eagle Team.
Let's go, baby. Your Honor, my client is guilty of being rad, and that would be how I would open, and then that would be my last. There you go.
Thank you so much for coming. I mean, I think if anyone is watching this, they will know where to find you, but where can they find you?
Find me at Brennan Lee Mulligan on Blue Sky and Instagram, and you can find my work at dropout.tv, where I'm the creator of Dimension 20. You can also find me on Game Changer and Make Some Noise. You can find me on the hit podcast Worlds Beyond Amazon number, wherever fine pods are cast, and check out our Patreon for that. And you can find me on Thursday nights GMing Campaign 4 of Critical Role. So plenty of places to find me.
Is that it? Come back next time. If you need anything modded, you know where to find me.
Wait, what does he do? Rapture.
Someone just asked me why I wear sunglasses indoors. Well, obviously because it's cool. Making Bang Boo's metallic exterior look bouncy and cute ain't easy, you know? Making Bang Boo's metallic exterior look bouncy and cute ain't easy, you know? Someone just asked me why I wear sunglasses indoors. Well, obviously because it's cool. Making Bang Boo's metallic exterior look bouncy and cute ain't easy, you know?
This is the NATO phonetic alphabet. You've heard pilots, soldiers, and police officers use it, and it is so much cleverer than you think. These 26 words were meticulously chosen as part of a secretive process in the wake of the Second World War, a process that you'll struggle to find information about. However, I've dug deep into the...
Someone just asked me why I wear sunglasses indoors. Well, obviously because it's cool. Someone just asked me why I wear sunglasses indoors. Well, obviously because it's cool. I got plenty of new ideas. Let's try them out on EOS one by one.
Okay, so new player design is forced on me if I use the other account. What the actual fuck?
Someone just asked me why I wear sunglasses indoors. Well, obviously because it's cool. If you got any questions, come find me anytime. I'll be here.
Okay. I skipped 2 days. Well, I mean, I skipped 1 day. Really fucking scary. Daily check-ins. Really important stuff. Okay.
He's mad about me. Oh, sorry, Hassan is mad about me. What is this?
It's pretty wild for him to say that. I mean, it's a wild position for him in particular to say that,
what?
Considering. You know.
What is he saying?
The org that he was a part of and how many people had to leave the organization.
Do you know why they had to leave? It's because I was one of the people that made that decision. And at the time that I had to decide whether I was going to support something like that or not, I made the best decision possible. At least at the time. That's why a lot of them aren't part of it anymore. I think this argument defeats itself.
But I guess they're American citizens, so it's appropriate.
There's no reason why any...
Who got convicted of...
I can't
can't believe I'm about to talk about this. I mean, how the hell does a simple stream clip go so viral that it becomes a literal cultural phenomenon? I mean, this has truly taken the world by storm to the point where you're finding references of it in places you're never meant to find references of it in the first place. This has reached the Formula 1 community, the Gacha community, and to my complete surprise, even the Counter-Strike 2 community. You'd see Anders, a legendary Counter-Strike commentator, make a direct reference to Hassan shocking his dog during a game. It would happen as soon as he'd see a player use a taser. Watch.
Oh, it could get worse. Towson on the corner. Gotta be careful. Hide your dogs. It's Ari going down. That is brutal. Saka.
Bro said hide your dogs. I had a viewer who had his 70-year-old coworker reference this to his face. Okay, he has no kids, no internet. And seeing that this blew up beyond proportion, of course, it has also reached news publications, ones as big as Forbes. So how did...
Nie.
We even get here? Okay, how did this take the world by storm? And why does it keep getting worse? Well, let's talk about it. Alright, so the streamer at the center of this incident is none other than Hassan Piker, otherwise known by his Twitch username, Hassan Abi. But look, I'm sure he needs no introduction, alright? This is one of the biggest political streamers on the planet, and just like any political personality or political commentator, he has his fair share of enemies and his fair share of controversies. But that doesn't really interest us. What we want to know is how we got to the point where this became a global phenomenon. So what happened exactly? Well, this all began on October 7th, 2025, when Hassan was streaming and something particular would happen. Someone would clip that moment, post it on the subreddit livestream fail, and it would very quickly gain traction, going completely viral. The title for this post is Hassan reaching for something and seemingly shocking his dog to keep her in camera view. Now look, before we get into this, I used to know a girl who would literally cry at National Geographic documentaries, so if you're like that, feel free to skip a minute, okay? Because you'll be hearing his dog whimper in pain. Watch.
But it is emblematic of all of America's much more consequential violence, okay? It's the same reason as to why America, Kaya, please just fucking go, just stop. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You're being such a baby. It's just, you're making her stressed. She just literally is so incredibly spoiled from my mom.
Right, so what the hell even happened here? Well look, Hassan has a dog by the name of Kaya. You can see her sitting in the back. As soon as she would step 1 foot off of the place where she was laying down, Hassan would get very annoyed, almost to an irrational degree. He would then look down at something, reach out to it, and after doing so, you'd hear the dog whimper as if he pressed a button. Now, of course, by this point, a lot of people were convinced that he shocked his dog for doing absolutely nothing, but many were still skeptical. Why would Hassan even shock his dog for doing something so minimal? Seeing that we're in the political space, smear campaigns are fairly common. You can very easily discredit your opponent's political stances by discrediting him in another way, which is why many people, especially in Hassan's community, were very skeptical about this. Now that clip I just showed you that was posted on Livestream Fail would gain traction very quickly as he was still live. A viewer of his would alert him to how quickly it was going viral, and this is what he had to say. Watch.
Yes, I am incredibly abusive to the not only best trained, but also the best behaving and most spoiled dog on the planet. Is from when Kaya yelped. Yeah, she yelped because she fucking clipped herself on something when she was getting off the bed.
Right, so Hassan explained himself. He said she clipped her nail on the bed, that's why she yelped, and he didn't mention anything about her collar. The thing is though, people would quickly move on from the idea that he's shocking the dog and instead focus on the dog's position throughout his entire stream. Very quickly, someone would make a time lapse of that stream to show you just how long Kaya stays in the same exact position without moving. Just so you're aware, this was the stream in which she yelped. Now watch as she stays in the same position for over 4 hours.
What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, afternoon, pre-noon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is the Hassan Abi broadcast.
She just stays there in the same position. She's not moving. She's barely moving, right? She's not even stretching. She's not even like doing anything a normal dog should be able to do. Like, I don't know, free roam around a little bit, walk around a little.
It is emblematic of all of America's much more consequential.
And this would be when she would try to maybe move a little bit, and he would react like crazy.
America, Kaya, please just fucking go, just stop.
There she is laying down again, not really stretching, not really moving, right? And so far it's been 3 hours. It's going to go along to the 4-hour mark, and that's when she can finally start to move. You'll see this very shortly, and here we go, right? 4 hours and 21 minutes of just laying there and not being allowed to move a single paw outside of that zone. So this is when he would start seeing the first iterations of the memes. Hassan to his dog if she interrupts his stream for 0.5 seconds. And the outrage at this point was mostly directed at how he wasn't allowing his dog to even stretch a little bit, to even walk a little bit. At the irrational annoyance of how she just put one paw outside of her bed and he acted as if she broke something. It was a very excessive reaction and it made people start asking questions. That's when certain people would start to unearth some old clips that would paint Hassan in a bad light in regards to his pet, like this one. Here we can see a guest on Hassan's stream telling him that the collar on Kaya's neck is way too tight. Watch.
And now it's mainstream. I love her. I think her collar is too tight.
Well, it's here we get.
It's you have to be able to get 2 fingers, and I couldn't even get 1. I think you're choking her.
She's like, it's 'cause she has a lot of neck meat.
So look, I don't know if this guest intended to make it sound so bad, but saying that the collar is so tight that she thinks that Hassan is choking her is definitely a wild thing to say. And his very chill reaction saying, oh yeah, it's because she has a lot of neck meat, made people question, wait, does he even care? It just simply wasn't a good look. And as people were starting to realize that this dog is kind of being used like a prop in every stream, being forced to sit there for hours on end without moving, some others like XQC simply refused to believe the idea that this wasn't a shock collar. XQC would make a direct comparison of how the collar would look before and after her yelp. Right before the yelp, it would flash green. After the yelp was finished, it would go back to normal with no extra green light. By that point, this theory had started to catch on fire. This was still the second day, and people simply refused to believe that it was just her nail clipping on whatever bed she was sleeping on. So when Hassan would go live on October 8th, he would have one of his mods put this pinned message in his stream's chat, saying it is a collar with an AirTag and a vibration motor that is used to help with recall when she's free roaming and she's an off-leash trained dog. So by that point, Hassan and his mod team no doubt noticed all the theories running around, especially thanks to people like XQC, that this was indeed a shock collar. This pinned comment was an attempt to clear the air and silence those rumors before they got out of control. But even if this was the case, he still wasn't saying whether he actually pushed a button to vibrate or shock her. During that stream on October 8th, people would start to ask him, hey, like, what did you reach out for? What did you do with your hand before she yelped? Well, he would claim that he was actually reaching for a nicotine pouch to put in his mouth, even though he put nothing in his mouth. Watch.
Large dog, what were you reaching for in the clip? What do you think? That's where all my fucking Zintins are.
But of course, in the stream, even if you were to skip past, like, I don't know, a half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever you want, you would never see him reach out for a Zin or put anything in his mouth. This, to many, just felt like another bogus excuse. Things weren't adding up. You start to see certain memes come up, like this Hearthstone card right here saying, cast lightning bolt on every beast in your opponent's hand, deck, and battlefield. You see this very detailed meme of Slay the Spire, in which you channel 1 lightning. And of course, you can't go wrong with a Slay the Spire, deck, and battlefield. You see this very lightning bolt on every beast in your opponent's hand, deck, and battlefield. You see this very detailed meme of Slay the Spire, in which you channel 1 lightning. And of course, you can't go wrong with a classic Minecraft meme in which he's herding his dog from a distance. Facing insurmountable global pressure at this point, Hassan would finally decide to show the collar on stream. It would be very brief, and he'd be hoping to finally silence the critics so that he can move on from this incident or controversy. Watch.
It has the capacity to vibrate. And that's it. Are you happy? That's it. Good. There's the AirTag. There's the fucking vibrator. It also has a flashlight component to it at nighttime. And it also has a tracker on it when she gets lost. If she were to actually get fucking lost.
Someone would make a comment saying, bro's handling it like a magician handles a deck of cards. And I can't help but agree here. The way he's showing it is very quick. It's almost like he's trying to hide it or not show it for too long. I don't know. It just seems suspicious. It's like, why are you so shy? And while people were definitely suspicious of this, it kind of seemed off. His community was very happy because now they finally had proof that he wasn't shocking his dog. He wasn't an animal abuser. They could finally send this clip to the haters and say, hey, see, he's went through this. This is a vibration collar, no shock prongs, and would even go further and say that all his friends, all the big streamers and content creators that have duo streamed with him in his own house would have definitely said something if he actually was shocking his dog for no reason. But even though this topic was gaining a lot of traction online, Hassan was still completely unaware that this was just the beginning, because a very big content creator would go ahead and make a video about it. On October 9th, just a couple of days after the initial incident, Moist Critical would upload a video titled Crazy Day on Twitch. He would also point out how things weren't really making much sense, how his explanations were definitely inconsistent with reality. And even though Hassan kept using the excuse that this was a well-trained dog and this was part of her training, Moist Critical would go on to give his perspective on training since he has a dog himself. You see, that little corner that Kaya is meant to sit on is her place. When you give a dog a place, it's meant to be their safe, comfy spot. This is done for many reasons, but it could be a way, for example, for the dog to just chill out. If the dog's hyperactive, just can't calm down, and for whatever reason jumps on people, for example, from excitement, and you might have a kid or an elderly person in your house, then telling your dog, place, tells them to calm down, go sit in that comfortable spot, and just enjoy their time for a little while. What Moist Critical points out is that this place is meant to be comfortable. It's not meant to be a prison. They're not meant to sit there for hours and hours at a time. Dogs are active creatures. And while shock collars are tools used to train dogs, they certainly shouldn't be used just because your dog wants to stretch. So no matter how you looked at this, whether there was a shock collar involved or not, it just looked very bad. And people weren't really getting the reassurance they were looking for from Hassan. They were very worried for Kaya because it seemed like she was being mistreated. On the same day, Hassan would go live again, and instead of giving any form of reassurance, he would instead be very salty over the fact that Moist Critical made a video about him without messaging him beforehand. What's notable here is that he didn't even bother watching the video himself. He just took his chatter's word for what was actually in the video, and they were quoting some things out of context, making it seem like Charlie was intending to conduct a character assassination, when in fact, he was, like most others, concerned about the dog's safety. That was it. This post of Hassan complaining about Most Critical has over 26,000 upvotes on Reddit, and the top comments are all just a bunch of memes involving Hassan electrocuting his dog. I mean, look, it's horrible. I feel so sorry for the dog, and that yelp definitely hit me deep in the chest. But these memes are so creative, I just can't help but laugh. And speaking of all these memes, Hassan would so effortlessly keep supplying them with more material because his story would keep changing and he would keep coming up with different excuses that had nothing to do with the prior ones he talked about before. On October 10th, 2025, Hassan would say that, you know what, that even though he's not using a shock collar, it wouldn't be ridiculous if he did. Watch.
Like, they don't realize that even the e-collars that do shock are unironically used to train fucking like service dogs and shit.
The thing is, no one was arguing with the fact that shock collars are used to train. What people were arguing about was the fact that the dog was forced to sit there for hours and that he had seemingly used it for something so benign, so small. As one Redditor would sum this up, he'd say, so we've gone from she stubbed her paw, it's a vibration collar only, not for shocking. If it was a shock, his friends would tell us, and now shock collars aren't that bad anyway. It had barely been 72 hours and we had already gone through 4 different excuses. And this, of course, would spread this incident beyond anyone's imagination, which would end up creating even more creative memes like this one that says, breathes too loud, Thundaga, or Hassan being Raiden over here electrocuting Kaya, and of course him being Emperor Palpatine. So by October 11th, seeing that this has blown up way more than Hassan could have ever imagined in his wildest dreams, he would take on the perspective of a victim, saying streamers that he knows have either defended him or are scared to do it publicly, except for Moist Critical. People were simply wondering, why can't Kaya just live a normal life? Why can't she just free roam around the house if she's not causing any trouble? Why must she stay locked up in prison, like just sitting there behind the scenes like a prop? Surely this can't be healthy. If you know anything about dogs, you know that they're active creatures. They need to actually move and stretch. What would Hassan's response be? I don't want to hear from people who don't understand dogs. But don't worry, okay? It's fine if you're confused, because yet another excuse would drop on October 14th, 2025. Remember how he said that his arm moved in that clip because he was reaching out for a Zim pouch? Yeah, well, it turned out that story was false. He was actually pushing the gate button, and Kaya's yelp was her reacting in excitement that she finally gets to leave. Watch.
Guys that don't even know Kaya's name coming in here saying, I know. Can we just move on, please? Because the memes were funny in the first couple of days, but now the only people that still are like actively pushing it are people who are genuinely mentally ill, in the way that, like, anytime my fucking arm moves around or like I unlock the gate or some shit, like I do have a button on my desk for the gate, right? And I unlock the gate, and obviously if you have a dog, you know this already, when they hear that the gate is unlocked, they perk up. They're like, oh my god, he shocked her again. You know, it's just, they are weird stalkers that are demonstrating their mental illness, and I think it's just, you know, it is what it is.
Now look, I don't know what your reaction to this is so far in this video. Maybe you're thinking he's 100% guilty and he's lying, or you're thinking maybe people are exaggerating and he's actually innocent. He would never harm his own dog, especially not live on stream. Well, regardless of what side you're on, most people understood the truth when he would inadvertently show the shock dog collar remote on stream when he would set up a camera above him. I mean, you really can't make this up. Watch.
Don't put the Y shot. Boom.
It is right here, and he's gonna notice it, and he's gonna move it immediately. Watch.
Yes, we can.
I'm protecting her. The floor is lava. All right, so at this point, it was confirmed. The floor. I'm protecting.
Yes, we can.
Move it immediately. Right here, and he's gonna notice it, and he's gonna move it immediately. Watch.
Yes, we can.
I'm protecting her. The floor is lava. All right, so at this point, it was confirmed. The shock collar remote was actually a thing, and it was exactly what he had pressed on that day. But can we confirm truly that it's a shock collar? Is it not a vibration collar? Well, everyone put their weaponized autism to good use and actually cracked the case, finding the exact dog collar model, understanding that it is indeed a shock collar, but that it also has removable prongs. Okay, you can actually remove the prongs that shock the dog. And I mean, look at this, bro. This is like someone who is trying to find like a terrorist, like someone on the wanted list of the FBI. Like, look at all this. This is crazy. The lengths people will go just to prove that it's a shock collar. So this is all proof showing that this is the same exact model that he's using. But then they go on to show that he had removed the prongs the day after the shock had occurred and put tape over it. How did they prove that? Well, they fiddled around with the light levels in Photoshop and found out that yes, indeed, there is a tape, and you can kind of see the color difference between the collar itself and the black tape. You can also clearly see that the shock collar remote is the same exact one on his desk as well. I mean, it was undeniable at this point. The collar itself was the e-collar ET300 Mini Educator, and Hassan had very clearly lied, not just to his audience, but the internet in general. This was very worrying, and of course, people who were fearing the worst were now fearful that he was actually abusing his dog regularly. This sense of worry empowered people who are chronically online even more to dig through past clips and find out exactly what Hassan's relationship with Kaya truly is. And honestly, from what they found, it doesn't look good at all. Now look, by this point, of course, you still had many people in denial that no, Hassan doesn't abuse his dog, and no, Kaya doesn't even stay in the same spot for that long, even though we literally saw proof of that. But I mean, if you're still doubtful, this is him straight up admitting it. Watch.
And also, one of the parts of this training is also supposed to put her, like, we're using the elevated bed, as you guys can see. And one of the things with the elevated bed is that she has a leash on right now on the elevated bed, so she can't like really get off of it. So she now knows to sit in place for hours and hours on end.
Yeah, so I don't know of any situation when you own a dog where you'd want them to sit for hours on end in the same spot. This just doesn't make sense to me. Dogs are not a prop, okay? If she gets overly excited and risks hurting someone who's elderly or who's a child in the house, sure, you can just say place, have her sit down before she starts moving again normally for her joints and for her legs. If someone calls this animal abuse, then I wouldn't say they're exaggerating. And speaking of animal abuse, people would find another suspicious clip from his past streams where he treats Kaya in a weird way. Watch.
Absolute garbage. Did you compare this to the Japanese airport experience? Yeah, the Japanese airport experience is like everything works, everything is fast. Kaya, place.
Grabs the thing.
Get back there. What is this? Don't worry.
I mean that's 100% right.
To many, this seemed like he was shocking her again, getting very pissed over the fact that she moved a little bit after sitting around for hours. It was yet again an exaggerated reaction, and it wasn't really warranted. But the most damning evidence that people had found from his past streams is the fact that he actually pulled on his dog's tail directly, saying, "Stay, or I'm gonna fucking kill you." This was live on stream. Watch this for yourself.
Motherfucker, come here. Stay. If you run right now, I'll fucking kill you. Like, I'll actually kill you, okay? In front of everyone. Stay.
Sequence initiated. Annihilation mode. Wind strike. Fallen leaves. Adorn my night.
Stay. No, come here.
So obviously this is inexcusable, right? At this point, whether you're a diehard fan of Hassan or a hater, I don't care. You can never excuse someone pulling on a dog's tail. It's extremely sensitive and can damage many of its internals. We're talking nerves in the spine, we're talking more specifically nerve damage, avulsion, and even permanent incontinence. It was getting very hard to defend Hassan. At this point, this wasn't even political anymore. Sure, his political opponents were using this as an opportunity to attack his character and his political opinions, but whether you're into politics or not, I'm sure we can all agree this is unacceptable behavior. And seeing that some of his friends are the biggest content creators on Twitch and just in general, people were wondering, are they going to say something about this? Are they going to condone his behavior or actually call it out, give him some criticism, some feedback like a normal friend does? Well, no, not at all, actually. It's very weird. You might have seen this image of Hassan dressed up as Raiden shocking Ludwig while he's wearing a dog collar, and you might literally have no idea why it exists. Well, this is of course insinuating the fact that Ludwig is Hassan's dog and he trained him very well. That's because at some point there was this very stupid controversy in which Hassan said that streaming is way harder than a regular job. This was back in February 2024. Ludwig would make a video about the situation on his Mogul Mail channel in which he talked about news, and Hassan got so pissed at him for making him look bad that he ended up cutting parts of the video to then just straight up removing it. He'd end up re-uploading it without any of the clips that were criticizing Hassan. This made people realize early on that even when it came to friendships, Hassan was never open to criticism. He saw everything as an attack on both his character and his entire brand, no matter who said it. Ludwig, of course, was seen like someone who was spineless, someone who couldn't hold down his own opinion, and who caved in to pressure from Hassan whenever he wanted. So of course, it's no surprise to say that over a week after the clip had surfaced, Ludwig has said nothing about this, even though he's a close friend of Hassan. But that didn't matter. The person that people really wanted to hear from was Hassan's girlfriend, Valkyrie. I do want to point out that they've never officially announced that they're dating, but at this point, it's like more of an open secret, right? Valkyrie is known as someone who's very brand friendly, who's never into controversies, and whenever she does end up in one, she immediately apologizes and caves in. People were expecting, or at least hoping, for her to say something about the situation, but instead she gave a response that made people end up, well, fueling the memes even further. Watch.
Clip did look horrible. The clip was really bad. It was so bad. And it's understandable why everyone was freaking out about it, but I can verify that Kaya is the most loved and spoiled and just the most well-trained and best little baby, or big baby, that I have ever been around and that I have ever seen. So, big baby. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. You would think that this kind of outrage, we would have seen it towards like the genocide and stuff, but you know, the priorities in this world are not where they should be. But alas.
Man, this comes off as so toned up, like she's on a high horse. Like, just because there's a genocide happening in Gaza, you don't have a right to be concerned over a dog's safety. Oh, there's a ceasefire that's been signed recently between Gaza and Israel that's probably not gonna last. Oh well, still, you can't criticize Hassan or Kaya because guess what? There's another genocide currently going on in Sudan. How dare you? So evidently, this made people make fun of Valkyrie to the point of like no return. Like, this was the best you could come up with to defend your boyfriend? Come on, you can do better than that. Well, the thing is, Valkyrie's viewpoint wasn't really that different from Hassan's most loyal viewers. They also thought the same exact thing. This meme was posted on Hassan's subreddit saying, "I can excuse genocide, but I draw the line at animal cruelty," to which someone responds with, "You can excuse genocide?" Again, it's a very weird viewpoint because you can be both against genocide and against animal cruelty. I really don't see why people are acting like we're choosing here. This was never about a genocide. This was just about a dog being shocked for no reason. Valkyrie would then go live the next day and admit that she's been getting so much hate that she asked 2 streamers for advice regarding her current Reddit hate threats. One streamer by the name of NMPLol and Asmongold. Guys, I just want to show you what her chat's reaction is when she mentions just the name Asmongold. I just want you to see it because I can't explain it unless you look at it. Watch.
Messaged Nick Poem and I messaged Asmongold. I asked both of them. I was like, hey, I don't really use Reddit a whole lot, but like, do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea if I respond to a post and be like, oh, I understand where you guys are coming from. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. I should have definitely like spoken about it differently. And both of them reassured me that it's a good idea to
Look at
not...
her chat.
Because I know they're like, they're Reddit people. So I was like, they both said, they're both very nice.
They are so outraged.
Don't respond. It's not a good...
She's so dead inside seeing her chat, because now she not only pissed off Reddit, now she's pissing off her own loyal community by mentioning Asmund. By doing this, she had pissed off everyone. It's just such a disaster, dude. The next day, she would immediately apologize on stream that she DM'd Asmongold, saying that she wasn't aware of the rhetoric that he spouted and that she lives under a rock, even though her job is to literally be chronically online. But you know what's funny? The day before that, after saying that she had DM'd both NMPLOL and Asmongold, she would notice her chat getting really pissed at her, and so she'd say that she doesn't agree with everything Asmongold has been saying. See for yourself.
Ray, the hate you're getting right now is crazy after reaching to Asmund. Guys, listen, I don't agree with many things that he says, but I was looking for an LSF Reddit expert. I asked two people, I asked Nick and Asmund, and they both said to not respond to the thread because I didn't know if it was a good idea or not. Like, I don't know, man. I just wanted advice because I didn't know what to do. I'm just gonna get hate no matter what I do, bro. I don't know.
So, which is it? Are you really living under a rock? Or are you just pretending to be outraged because your community's outraged? I'm just gonna go with the latter, just, you know, based on your past history. You know, it sucks because I don't think Valkyrie is a bad person. I just think that she suffers from the problem many of her friends suffer from, where they give too much power to their community, where they can literally get bullied by them if they do something they don't like. And by this point, people found it very hard to take her seriously. In fact, she became the subject of ridicule, just like Hassan. This is when she would become a part of the memes. Hassan when Kaya takes one step.
Well, there's nothing over here to fix. That's crazy.
Let the mighty be humbled. Yeah, don't worry. This was my face when I saw Kaya getting tased too. Another streamer from the big clique of streamers of Los Angeles would also defend Hassan, saying he is a good dog owner, even though she admits in her statement that they're literally acquaintances, that she doesn't know him that well. But the big bombshell here was when the podcast, Sweet and Sour, ran by Pokimane and Lily Pichu, two very big content creators also based in LA and part of Hassan's friend group, would post a small update on their Patreon, saying, hey Taste Buds, this is a tough one to write, but we wanted to give you all a heads up that we're unfortunately going to be missing our first scheduled Saturday video tomorrow. We've been watching the recent drama unfold considering our guest, and it's been getting intense. We had a serious talk as a crew, and we all agreed that it did not feel right uploading tomorrow's video at this moment in time. Our community is our favorite thing, and the reason we do this is to create a space that is comfy as always and a true escape. We do not want to impact the cozy atmosphere we've all built together. Thanks for always supporting our vision for a fun, positive place to hang out. See you all next week. Sweet and Sour staff. So, Hassan was meant to get on the Sweet and Sour podcast with both Lily Pichu and Pokimane, and the episode was meant to come out around this time. They decided not to release it because he was getting a lot of backlash. Honestly, I don't really agree with this decision, right? This only feels like they're throwing their friend under the bus purely because they don't want to get dislikes, but honestly, it doesn't matter. If you bring Hassan on a podcast, it will get mass dislike. That's just how it is. Like when he got on the Trash Taste podcast in the beginning of this year, look at this like to dislike ratio. Oh my god, 50,000 comments. This is insane. The point is, Hassan had many haters even before the whole shock collar incident, so I don't see why, as close friends of his, this would matter, right? Seeing that they don't really have a problem with his dog getting shocked for no reason. The thing is though, things got even more complicated, because then Pokimane would tweet out, the episode was supposed to air as usual, but staff refused to upload it out of fear it would cause drama, and also posted the statement, without my approval, sad face. Sorry guys, we'll talk about everything on this week's episode and go on a hiatus afterwards to restructure. So, Pokimane made this out to be a mistake. Staff went behind hers and Lily Pichu's backs, and now she was going to go on a hiatus and restructure. In other words, fire people in this wonderful economy. Wow, look at this meme right here. Look at this. Anyway, it seemed like Pokimane was truly trying to save face here. It was a desperate attempt because 2 days before that tweet, she would make an Instagram story saying, "Quick update, recording a new podcast episode Thursday to explain why we missed last week and have an honest chat." Huh, interesting. Now, of course, people have their own theories and speculations, like maybe Hassan messaged her and was very outraged at the fact that they're not uploading the podcast episode and wanted to throw her staff under the bus to not get on his bad side. Overall, regardless of the speculation or the real reason, she lied, okay? Straight up lied and threw her staff under the bus. So just like Valkyrie, she ended up seeing controversy, tried to recover, and ended up pissing everyone at the same time instead. Wonderful. The rest of Hassan's friends would go on to invite him over for a little podcast and defend him very openly that they've never seen him shock his dog. Watch.
Oh, I care. So you've probably been asked too. People keep coming in our chat and they're like,
They go to poor rickety old Austin show who you barely get
they're
up
like,
in the
why are
morning.
you hanging out with a dog abuser?
Yeah.
I would like to make it clear, I don't believe that Hassan has abused a dog.
No, I also don't believe that either, because I've bore witness to how you treat her, and you treat her much better than me.
So, this is really interesting because, of course, these are more of his friends defending him, completely ignoring the clip, all the proof that was accumulated so far. But interestingly enough, the reason why a lot of people were going to Austin's chat in particular asking him about this was because he very openly collabed with Hassan on his own stream when Kaya was in the background. Now look at this clip of Kaya going under the feet of Hassan, him getting pissed off that she's not sitting in the same spot for hours. And as Austin is sitting right next to him, you could very clearly hear the sound of a shot. Watch.
Defensive mode engaged.
Hey, out. Out.
And right here.
Place. Kaya, place. Go. Go, 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 go. No. Place.
Enough of this madness.
Look at how dead inside his friend looks. Look at how dead inside Austin is. He says firsthand he was there and never saw a shot. So are we just lying now? One of Hassan's friends that has said nothing and has been getting a lot of indirect flack is Maya Higa, someone who owns an animal sanctuary in California and cares a lot about animals. Now look, I'll sit here and say harassment is bad no matter how it's done, no matter who it's done to. I don't encourage it, I don't condone it, and I think it should stop. But at the same time, it shows how much anger is in people's minds right now, seeing how this dog's being treated and seeing that all his friends, including someone who owns an animal sanctuary, isn't saying anything. Well, they would have so openly said something if it was another streamer, just not Hassan. But look, even with all that being said, and as much as Valkyrie would want to say that she lives under a rock, his friends were very well aware of the controversy going on and how their silence was contributing to a negative image of their brand. This prompted more of them to start talking about the situation, but of course, they would only make it substantially worse. On Stable Ronaldo's stream, Cutie Cinderella, who is Ludwig's girlfriend and who is one of Hassan's friends, would confirm that she went to his house to check the collar. She thought she was helping him by saying this, but what she ended up saying actually ended up sabotaging him beyond belief. Watch.
No, there's no shock. Like, the electric prongs are taken out of it.
But here's my thing, right?
Like, it's only a vibrate. Like, there's a setting for vibrate and there's a setting for shock.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
So there's only the, like, since the prongs are in it, it only vibrates.
So all of a sudden we went from, oh, this is just a vibration collar to, no, actually the prongs were taken out. So this is indeed the shock collar. At this point, people could just keep saying he said, she said, whatever. That's why he should have shown it on the first day, right? The theory now is that he took out the prongs on the second day when the controversy was blowing up beyond his wildest dreams. But she pretty much had confirmed that this was indeed the electrical shock model. However, she wasn't really the only friend who completely screwed him over without really meaning to. Caroline Kwan, a streamer and the girlfriend of Hassan's best friend, would claim that she's someone who has dog-sitted Kaya before and that no, this is not a shock collar in any way, going completely against what Cutie Cinderella just said. Watch.
I know it probably doesn't matter to you because you're going to believe what you want to believe and from the sources you want to believe it from, and that's why, like, doesn't matter what I or anyone else says, but it's not a shock collar. I've seen that collar. I've used that collar before. I've babysat that dog.
So which one is it? Is it a shock collar? Is it a shock collar with the prongs taken out with tape on it? Or is it not a shock collar at all? I just don't get it, dude. I don't think his friends realize that every time they open their mouth without getting their story straight, they're making him look way worse. It's like, can we just get to the bottom of this and move on already? Of course not, because now people are thinking, well, okay, who lied? Is it Cutie Cinderella who's lying? Or is it Caroline who's lying because they both have different stories? Man, whatever. Check this meme out. POV, you're Hassan's dog and you step 1 foot off your bed.
Of America's much more consequential violence, okay? It's the same reason as to why
there we go.
America. Kaya, please just.
It's so stupid. In the end, what I find so funny is that Hassan had openly made fun of pirate software back during his controversy. A narcissist just like him who never was able to take any criticism or feedback correctly and now finds himself in the same exact situation. I mean, look at this.
With the things that I talk about. So, see, you're totally a video game understander. Yeah, I think like, as far as I understand, like the pirate software stuff, like if he had just simply stood aside and was like, I fucked up, you know, and took ownership over it, like it never would have exploded to the degree that it did.
I mean, you can't make this up. If Hassan had simply taken accountability, if he stepped back and said, you know what, listen, I screwed up, maybe I overdid it, maybe I was having a bad day, I'll make very substantial changes to the way I treat my dog so that I don't abuse her, then hey, maybe we wouldn't have reached this point. But him denying it and making up different excuses and just deflecting in such a stupid way while having all his friends root for him, knowing that he's wrong, this had the complete opposite effect. And that's what brought us here, to the point where it's now a global phenomenon. Like, look at this guy making a straight up Roblox level called Hasanabi Dog Simulator, right? Where if you step out of this box, look at this, you just get shot. You just die. These memes have been so creative. I mean, look at this RuneScape meme where you shock a dog. I mean, even Ninja had something to say about this, right? Ninja, who typically stays out of drama. Watch.
Yeah, I have a collar on. Don't worry, guys. It's not a shot collar. It's just a Scooby-Doo collar.
Raggy, don't rock me.
So look, after this whole debacle, where do we find ourselves now? Did Hassan admit anything or apologize? No, of course not. But seeing how much controversy had built up around this, now he feels forced to let Kaya walk around whenever she wants to. Watch for yourself.
We've finally gotten to a place where like, oh, pure peace is taking place. It's taking place. Is I don't know what you're doing. Okay, what? What do you want? What? 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 What do you want? Huh? Okay. The chutzpah, if you will.
Was it that hard, man? Was it really that hard? Seriously, come on, man. You made it seem like it was a gargantuan task. Finally, Kaya is free. God. And finally, yes, even though this is a ridiculous situation and has many funny memes made around it, I do have to mention that this situation turned very political very fast. The New York Post wrote about this, and of course the title is Lefty Twitch Streamer Hassan Piker and Israel National News, right? Even though the hostages have just been released and they have many more things to report on, decided to make an article called Anti-Israel Twitch Streamer Hassan Piker Accused of Using Shock Collar on Dog. So if you're wondering why there's so many people who refuse to believe this, it's because if they do, then in their mind, it's admitting that their entire political compass is wrong. That's how politics work these days. If someone on your side who's influential does something wrong, it makes everyone look bad. So it's better to never admit it. This isn't just exclusive to one side of the political spectrum, it's every political spectrum at this point. That's the age we live in. So am I surprised? No. Do I care? No. The only thing I'd like to come out from this is, well, the dog being okay. That's pretty much it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching until the end. Hope you enjoyed the memes. Make sure to use the code Mugen for 10% off Gamer Subs. They make some really cool products. And I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is, which will probably be the 1,000-page Cinder document that is ridiculous. It's a pain in the ass to read. And I'm hopefully aiming to finish the video by maybe the end of the month. We'll see. Love you so much. Mwah.
It's time to accept that Nintendo is a supervillain.
I think that we can all agree by now, Nintendo as a company has a complete chokehold on so many of our childhoods. From their versatile consoles to their abundance of very high quality games, it comes as no surprise that they were and still are one of the biggest companies on the planet. But other than having a monopoly on our childhoods, they also happen to be known for something else. Their unparalleled pettiness when it comes to legal matters, suing companies and more often individuals for things that other companies couldn't care less about. Going as far as suing a random supermarket in Costa Rica just because it's called Super Mario, and more recently on October 2025 going after a Reddit mod because he private messaged some people a link to pirate Nintendo games. He's currently being sued for over $4.5 million, and Nintendo says the amount is reasonable and it could have been way higher. You really can't make this up. But other than these comical lawsuits, Nintendo just happens to be in one that is existential to the entire gaming industry. On January 2024, the extremely successful indie game by the name of Palworld would come out. It was obvious from the start that it was heavily inspired by Pokemon, but it didn't infringe on any of its copyrights. Nintendo was so salty that someone would even attempt to make money off of something that looks similar to one of its franchises that it went ahead and sued them in any way they can. Instead of doing copyright lawsuits, they would go with one about patents. From the start, they had the intention of playing this dirty. And recently, in the summer of 2025, they would somehow get a patent approved in the US that would forbid others from making games in which they have a pet fight another pet with something similar to a Pokeball. Something that's been done before by other games countless times and shouldn't be classified as inventive enough to be a patent. The gaming community was in complete shock. This is truly existential because if they win, this will set a precedent in which any company can just somehow get a patent approved in order to destroy any of their competition, especially if they're a smaller developer. The situation is obviously way more complex than this, so that's why I figured I'd have to make a video about it. At the same time, we got a very unexpected revelation thanks to a very unexpected event. Nintendo's biggest weakness that might just stop them from pursuing this lawsuit further. So you already know the drill by now. Let's talk about it. If you were to ask anyone these days about whether there's a good game to play that just so happens to be an MMO, they'll probably laugh at your face before saying, buddy, it's a dead genre. And honestly, they're not wrong. But that's simply because they haven't considered the possibility of an anime MMO coming up soon that's very ambitious. Blue Protocol Star Resonance is a free-to-play open-world MMORPG that has classic MMO elements. Alright, so to truly understand the gravity of the situation, we have to go back to the basics. What the hell is a patent anyway? Many people would probably define it as a piece of paper that gives you, the inventor, full exclusive rights to make whatever you invented. In reality though, it's more like a weapon. And all we have to do to truly understand it is look at this example of a patent and seeing how the United States defines it themselves. It says, grants to the persons having title to this patent the right to exclude others from making, using, offering for sale, or selling the invention throughout the United States of America. So this isn't about you having the right to make something, this is you having the right to stop others from making something that you invented. Whether you actually choose to pursue people stealing or using your invention though is completely up to you. And in the US in particular, you would have this right for 20 years. But why does this even exist? Well, during the 18th century, humanity witnessed the Industrial Revolution, changing their world forever with the insane amount of new inventions created every single day. Countries loved these new inventions because they kept them competitive and increased their productivity output. So how is it that you encourage brilliant minds to make new inventions? Well, you give them incentive. And that's exactly why something like the United States Patent and Trademark Office exists. Why would you take years, sometimes decades, to come up with a revolutionary invention that a bigger corporation can just steal from you and take advantage of while you rot in a corner? Instead, you can patent this invention, actually directly profit from it, or if you're too lazy, just license it out to bigger companies so that they can use it instead. You'd still get credit for the invention and a whole lot of money in either percentages or royalties or whatever you come up with in the contract. Overall, patents were definitely a good-intentioned invention. The problem was though, no matter how well-intentioned you might be, when it comes to laws and bureaucracy, it always ended up looking like the fresh launch of a very fun multiplayer game. Initially, it would be a blast, until certain players would start to cheese game mechanics to gain the upper hand no matter what. And when it came to patents, unfortunately, it was no different. It didn't take long for certain bad actors to understand that this patent system had loopholes. And when they did, they aimed to take full advantage. A patent troll is actually a real term used in legal circles. In a nutshell, it's a company that literally does nothing, that somehow acquires some patents through some different means, and then proceeds to generate its income by suing other companies claiming that they're infringing on their patents when it comes to their businesses. And one of the best examples of a patent troll is a company that terrorized some of the biggest American tech companies in the world back in the early 2010s. Their name was Lotsys LLC, and they didn't even have a logo. You see, this shell company that literally contributed nothing to society would somehow, through different means, acquire 4 different US patents that were close to expiring. And what made these patents special is that they were all tech-based, but were also extremely vague. And they'd use this vagueness to their advantage, claiming that, for example, because their patent 078 mentioned the transfer of some sort of data from the customer when they're on the website of the vendor, then any company using any sort of chat box on their website owes them money. Yes, it was stupid, but it somehow worked. They managed to sue so many different companies, with the 2 biggest and most significant ones being Apple and Google. Lotsys would send out the lawsuit, and these 2 multi-billion-dollar companies would settle, making a deal with them to acquire their patent through a license, either through a percentage-based revenue share or through a lump sum cash payment. Now, at this point, it's understandable for you to be confused. I mean, how the hell does such an obvious shell company with such vague patents successfully manage to extort money out of such big companies? How come there's no pushback? How come they don't even go to trial? Well, that's where things get very interesting. According to the study by the Stanford Law School in 2004, only 0.1% of all patents are litigated to trial. Yeah, that's right. It means that 99.9% of all patents either never have any issues or simply solve things before actually going to trial through settlements. And just in case there's any confusion, the trial stage of things is what you see in movies, right? It's when both sides go through the very lengthy process of presenting their case to a judge. Another interesting thing that came out of the study is that nearly half of fully litigated patents are declared invalid. This distinction is critical to understanding the economic impact of patents. This means that out of the 0.1% of all patents that actually do go to trial, there's a coin flip of a chance that these patents are declared invalid, that they should have never been patents in the first place. This is why when patents are discussed from an economic and practical standpoint, they're seen as a right to try to exclude by asserting the patent in court. This means that just because you're given a patent, it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to work in court. So if that's the case, why didn't Apple and Google, multi-billion-dollar companies, actually pursue Lotsys? Why didn't they go to trial instead of giving them lumps of money? Well, that's where things get even more complicated. These companies already have a huge horde of corporate lawyers. The problem, though, is that corporate lawyers are seen more like general physicians. You can go to a general physician if you have a cold or something else that's mild, but if there's something wrong with your brain, you need someone specialized in that area like a brain surgeon. There will be way less available and they will cost a fortune more. That's the exact same case with patent attorneys. You could sell both your kidneys on a Friday night, and by next Friday they're already packing their bags going to the next client because you already ran out of money. You'll be bleeding tens of millions of dollars. You'll be losing employee productivity since they work hand in hand with patent attorneys so that they understand the product being sued specifically, and seeing that patent-related trials last an average of 4 years, for 99.9% of the time, it's simply not worth it. This is why it doesn't matter if you're a billion-dollar company or a trillion-dollar company. Unless the patent being infringed is existential or you're 100% sure that you can win, it's better to just give the money that this dumb shell company's asking for and just moving on. But you want to know what's interesting? In May of 2012, Lotsys would sue 55 companies on US soil. 54 of them would of course settle, but only one company decided to go to trial because they just couldn't stand them anymore. And that was the Russian cybersecurity company Kaspersky. Look, they, much like every other company being sued by Lotsys, understood very well that they were bluffing. But unlike every other company, they were willing to put millions of dollars at stake just because they didn't want Lotsys to receive a single dollar. And so after a year and a half, and no doubt millions of dollars down the drain, with a lot of company resources at stake, Kaspersky was able to dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice. And Lotsys had to pay back all the attorney's fees, expenses, and costs that Kaspersky had spent, which meant that essentially this shell company was about to be deleted off the face of the earth. And it was. By 2014, all of its patents had expired, and the shell company simply closed down. Kaspersky had essentially done a huge favor to anyone working in the tech industry, and companies could finally carry on without being constantly harassed. But as we've already established, this was a small shell company specifically designed to extort companies with vague expiring patents. But the question that everyone was too frightened to ask was, what if a company with significantly more resources and one of the most aggressive teams of lawyers ever seen ended up using that same patent troll strategy? Well, it would take a bit over a decade, but we would finally and unfortunately get an answer to that question. And all it took for it to happen was an extremely successful indie game. Game Freak is a Japanese game development studio and one of the 3 owners of Pokemon, alongside Nintendo and Pocket Monster. Pokemon games are extremely popular and sell like hotcakes. They also happen to be always developed by Game Freak. But here's the thing, over the many years of Game Freak releasing Pokemon games, many fans have been getting frustrated over the lack of innovation and this feeling of complete laziness and disinterest. It seemed like Pokemon games had limitless potential with endless possibilities of making different genres and mechanics. And yet, Game Freak just took the boring route every single time, and why wouldn't they? I mean, they sold so many copies, at this point it was a money printer. This is why many of these frustrated fans would find immense excitement when Palworld, a game developed by Pocket Pair, a Japanese indie developer, would be announced to the world for the first time during Tokyo Game Show. Just like in Pokemon, you would collect these cute creatures called pals. There would be everything a Pokemon fan would want, like evolutions, new mechanics, and a bunch of creative things. But instead of it purely being oriented towards children, there was a twist. Guns, rocket launchers, and overall, a bit more of an adult take on something that many people have grown to enjoy. But look, everyone understood fairly quickly, this game was heavily inspired by Pokemon, okay? I mean, one of the top comments on this trailer was, "This is it, this is Pokemon Gun." But you know what? There's nothing weird about that. Gaming has always been about copying things that are successful and making them in your own way. H1Z1 pioneered Battle Royale games and did that after being inspired by community mods in the game Arma. And this chain would continue until we'd get to a game like Fortnite, making a Battle Royale game in their own way while clearly being inspired by their predecessors. This is what gaming has always been about, and at this point it came to be expected. What no one was expecting though, including Palworld's own developers, was the massive success they'd receive overnight on the game's release. The game would release in early access on the 19th of January 2024, and within just 8 hours, they would sell over 1 million copies. For an indie game, that is mind-blowing, but they were only getting started. In under 2 weeks, they would sell over 12 million copies on Steam alone. Bear in mind, this game was also on consoles. And within barely a week of releasing, they would have over 2.1 million concurrent players on Steam, beating all sorts of records and being in the top 5 most played games on the entire platform. At this point, it was extremely hard to ignore this game's success. Everyone in the gaming industry knew of its existence, and it became an incredible success story. But of course, you already know the drill by now. When something finds such immense success, you start to attract a huge amount of people scrutinizing what you've made. And sometimes, those people don't always have the best of intentions. It wouldn't take long for people to start making very direct comparisons of some of the pals in Palworld versus Pokemons. I mean, look, everyone understood that Palworld was already quite inspired by Pokemon, but these comparisons would blow up beyond proportion to the point where something unprecedented would take place. The Pokemon Company International would personally make a statement, something that you see extremely rarely, in which they would very obviously, indirectly call out Palworld personally, saying, "Inquiries regarding other companies' games. We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. I mean, come on, that's literally Palworld. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon in its world and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future." Signed, the Pokemon Company. But look, the reason why the statement was so significant was because the Pokemon Company never spoke personally about such things. And I mean, why would they? Yeah, they're owned by 3 different companies, but Nintendo, even though owning just 1/3, actually owns all the copyrights involved with anything related to Pokemon. This is why they typically do the suing for them. And so it was official. After this very rare statement from the Pokemon Company International, it was clear. Palworld had a huge target on its back, and Nintendo was aiming to take full advantage. They were very salty about seeing a game take so much inspiration from Pokemon and being so extremely successful. And on January 25th, 2024, barely a couple of weeks after Palworld had come out, and on the same day the Pokemon Company International would make its very rare statement, Nintendo would formally announce that they would begin an investigation into Palworld and its assets. But what does investigation mean? I mean, they didn't really infringe directly on anything Pokemon related. People were hoping that this would die down, that it just proves to be some sort of misunderstanding. With they could have never predicted beyond their wildest dreams, though, was that a company like Nintendo was about to take direct inspiration from shell companies such as Lotsys. Almost 9 months after the Pokemon Company International would announce that they're taking steps to investigate Palworld, on September 19th, 2024, Nintendo would announce that they're officially filing a lawsuit for infringement of patent rights against Pocket Pair, the developer of Palworld. This statement, however, didn't specify any of the patents that they're actually suing Palworld over, and on the same day, Pocket Pair would also make a statement saying that, hey, we're aware of the lawsuit, we've began the legal proceedings and investigations, but we're literally unaware of the specific patents we're being accused of infringing upon, and we have not been notified of such details. In other words, Pocket Pair was as clueless as we are about what they were exactly doing that was illegal here. It would only be almost a month later, on November 8th, 2024, that Pocket Pair would finally understand what the patents they were infringing upon allegedly were. This is when the entire gaming community as a whole would be completely baffled by how the 3 patents in the lawsuit were all filed and approved after Palworld had released. That's right, Nintendo was suing Palworld for patent infringement on patents that they had presented to Japan after Palworld had released. Now you're probably wondering, Mugen, how the hell is that even possible? Well, we'll get to that, but for now, let's take a look at these patents. Well, first things first, just in case this wasn't obvious, Nintendo was suing Pocket Pair in Japan since they were both Japanese developers, hence why we're discussing Japanese patents. 2 out of the 3 of these patents involve you using a Pokeball. In Pokemon games, you use a Pokeball to either capture a creature or summon a creature. In Palworld, there are no Pokeballs, but there are Pal Spheres. Yes, of course, they're a direct inspiration of Pokeballs, but this mechanic wasn't patented at the time. The third patent was about flying your pals in the air, but this one was very specific. It was about how when you would fall in Palworld, you could summon your
Let's hope for no rolls into defense. Really? Fucking really. This makes me really annoyed.
Pal to pick you up mid-air. And of course, just like the other 2 patents, Nintendo had patented this in 2024 after Palworld had released. So how the hell is this even possible? Well, it's simple. That's because these 3 patents were filed as divisional patents. What the hell is a divisional patent? Well, here's a rocket ship. Let's say you're SpaceX, you want to patent this rocket ship. Great. You make a general patent that pretty much covers this entire rocket ship, every component, but you don't delve too much into details. Now let's say you file that patent in 2020. A few years pass by and you finalize the design of the rocket boosters. You're happy with it and you're ready to patent that too. This is when you would create a divisional patent. It would be its own patent, sure, but it would fall under the general patent of the rocket ship. So even though you would be filing this, let's say 3 years later in 2023, it would still be a part of the general patent from 2020 that covered generally the entire rocket ship. Now in this context, of course, it makes total sense. But when it comes to software, patents get very tricky, and Nintendo knows this. This is why they're taking full advantage. The original and more general parent patent was filed in 2021 by Nintendo. It had to do with the many generalized game mechanics involving the game Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. These 3 divisional patents that were filed in 2024 aimed to complete the more generalized parent patent from 2021. So yeah, you see where this is going, right? Nintendo was playing dirty, and they had no intention of backing down. But unlike Lotsys, who was a shell company just looking to get quick money from big companies, Nintendo wasn't in this for the money, come on. Yes, technically speaking, the injunction filed against Palworld wanted 5 million yen plus late payment damages to both the Pokemon Company and Nintendo. And yes, since Palworld had released, they almost made $500 million in gross revenue, but more specifically 139 million in net revenue after fees and taxes. But for Nintendo, the money was nothing more than a formality. They genuinely didn't care how much money they got from this lawsuit. I mean, we're literally talking about a company worth over $100 billion. The money generated by Palworld to them was like a penny. So what exactly was going on here? Nintendo on September 19th, 2024 had effectively signaled to the world that they only wanted a trial out of this. Yes, what Apple, Google, and other billion or even trillion-dollar companies feared the most. They were heading straight for the jugular here. And other than the fact that these patents were made after the fact, after Palworld had released, showing us that they had very direct disdain towards the company, what a normal company in Nintendo's shoes would have done is do some sort of patent licensing agreement if they were really that pissed. They would just sit down with Pocket Pair, tell them, hey, listen, come on, we know that you were very heavily inspired by Pokemon, let's not be around the bush, we don't want to take this to trial, just give us a percentage of your sales and we'll call it a day. And most likely, Pocket Pair would have probably said yes, because they're also not interested in going to trial. I mean, guys, from an interview with the CEO after the game had come out, he revealed that this company had 10 employees and hired 40 employees before releasing the game. This is a company that has 50 people. Sure, they made over $100 million in revenue, but they were going up against a $100 billion company that has a huge team of lawyers in every region of the world that specifically work closely with its developers, understanding game mechanics and knowing exactly how to sue and defend. And now if we reference back the Stanford Law School study that was specifically done in the US, we could definitely argue that these patents from Nintendo are very vague and probably won't make it to the end of the trial. But you see, that would only be a problem for Nintendo if they actually aimed to win or lose the lawsuit. They didn't. They know very well, more than anyone, that patent litigation is way too expensive in terms of money and time. So to them, this wasn't about money. This was about crushing Pocket Pair until there was nothing left. This was simply about sending a message. Compete with us and you're dead. And unfortunately for Pocket Pair, they would realize this actually very quickly after the lawsuit would begin. Barely 3 weeks after understanding what the patents they're being sued for were, Pocket Pair released a new patch for Palworld. It fixed some bug fixes, added some features, but also removed a very integral part of gameplay. You could no longer use Pal Spheres to either capture or summon your pals. If you wanted to summon them, they would just simply appear next to you. And this, for many, heavily impacted gameplay because it was a very unpleasant way of calling them. And more recently, on May 8th, 2025, you could no longer summon one of your pals when you're in midair. Instead, to not die from fall damage, you would have to equip a new item called the Glider. As a reminder, the lawsuit was presented on September 2024. It hadn't even been 1 year, and Palworld was already forced to make changes as this lawsuit is still ongoing. Now, according to a Japanese patent attorney, he points out that these changes by Pocket Pair are not in any way an admission of guilt, adding that Pocket Pair is following the standard three-pronged defense against patent lawsuits, which is to deny infringement, argue that the patents are invalid, and avoid infringement through design changes. He also noted that Nintendo does not have the upper hand, as there seems to be a fierce back and forth with Nintendo pushing for patent infringement and Pocket Pair pushing for patent invalidity. So make no mistake, they are deep in the trenches fighting right now. And when this Glider update came out, Pocket Pair would also make a statement, explaining to everyone that yes, these changes that were being introduced into the game were a direct result of these ongoing patent lawsuits. They would then go on to say that these changes hurt them as much as they hurt the fans, apologizing to them. I think it was at this point that people truly realized, wow, this really isn't going to be easy at all. Because this whole thing was anything but straightforward. Nintendo wasn't just playing dirty, they had pretty much stooped lower than a company like Lotsys. On July 2025, so fairly recently, they rewrote a patent in Japan mid-case during the ongoing lawsuit against Palworld. Nintendo was getting desperate. Its flying patent wasn't really holding up as well as they wanted to against Palworld's defense. So in one of the first cases some lawyers have ever seen, they used some very weird language in the patent update, adding the term even when, making a lawyer say, I've been following patent litigation for 15 years and have seen many claims that were amended, but I've never seen even when or even if in a patent claim. It's bizarre. Nintendo is essentially using this language to try and complicate things and make this patent even more vague than it already is. This is because, as I said, their intention was to prolong this as much as possible, to drown Palworld in paperwork, hoping to bankrupt them pretty much and erase them from existence. But this dirty tactic was nothing more than them actually panicking. Pocket Pair was actually doing a pretty damn good job, coming up with a lot of examples that show that even before 2021, all of these patents were already used by prior games. So if Palworld can actually survive this lawsuit and see it till the end, even though it might take a very long time, they might not only end up winning, but make many of the patents Nintendo had filed to be invalid. Thing is though, you'd be naive if you thought that it was going to be that easy with Nintendo. Their legal team played dirty, and just as Palworld was starting to gain some sort of a fighting chance in Japan, Nintendo was aiming to create a war on two fronts. Ever since 2004, the US Patent Office has been absolutely swamped by a huge backlog. Barely able to keep up, being understaffed. I mean, you already know the drill. This is just another government agency in a first world country in the 21st century. But due to this understaffing and the fact that they have so many applications to go through, there's historically been many people who criticize the Patent Office for being pretty inconsistent with their decisions on what is a valid patent and what isn't. This inconsistency would initially show itself in February 2025 when Nintendo was gearing for a US patent lawsuit against Palworld. They would present 23 patent claims, but 22 of them would be rejected, with the argument that they simply weren't inventive enough. They were used before already by other games. But when it comes to Nintendo, this isn't really enough to discourage them. They were not only planning to fight these rejections, they had more in store. That's just how much they hated Palworld. Nintendo's efforts in the US would finally bear fruits on September 2nd, 2025, when the United States Patent and Trademark Office would grant them a patent so vague and so unoriginal that it would absolutely shatter the gaming industry in shock. This patent was filed in 2023 and was approved in 2025. In a nutshell, this patent is about a sub-character, so like a Pokemon. The patent dictates that you must be able to summon the character. It specifies things like summoning it specifically to fight, even detailing things like sending the sub-character in a direction specifically to start an automatic battle. And no, you're not the only one here that thinks this is crazy. This is not only extremely vague, but it's been done multiple times before by other games in the past. By 2025, or hell, even when this was filed in 2023, this was in no way inventive. This wasn't some sort of breakthrough, right? This would cause many patent lawyers to see this in the US and say things like, this has been an embarrassing failure of the US patent system. I mean, even the former Pokemon Company head lawyer said, I wish Nintendo and Pokemon good luck when the first other developer just entirely ignores this patent. Everyone was completely shocked at the fact that something like this could actually pass, and if someone wasn't convinced yet, if someone was a huge Nintendo fanboy that truly didn't see the problem, this was it. This was the point in which you would see that this definitely feels like a punishment specifically for Palworld. Because if Nintendo truly cared about this mechanic, then they would go ahead and sue Blizzard over their 2011 Battle Pets minigame. Even back then when it came out, it was very clearly inspired by Pokemon. It was obvious to everyone. So at this point, it's obvious this is a punishment against Pocket Pair. But as far as their patent goes, seeing that there's very clear past examples dating more than a decade ago, how the hell did it get approved anyway? Well, to really be able to explain to you what's going on right now, we need to briefly go back to what a patent actually is. As we saw earlier, the realistic approach to what a patent actually is a right to try to exclude by asserting the patent in court. We've already established that only 0.1% of all patents actually go to trial, so one could say that many of them are actually invalid. They've just never been contested in court. And the US Patent Office is constantly swamped by a backlog. So with all these things combined, now let's think of the employee working at the US Patent Office. You see a software patent, and it technically ticks all the boxes needed to be approved. You have two choices. You either approve it, move on with your day, go back home, see your family, have dinner and sleep, or you can be a smartass and contest it, knowing that the company's gonna contest your decision immediately. This means that the nice lunches and dinners you were getting with Nintendo's lawyers that you've built a friendly relationship with would all disappear. And this also means you've just unlocked yourself more work. Why the hell would you do that to yourself? You know what a patent actually means. It's the right to exclude others. And you know what? If it's a bogus patent, then hey, let them figure it out in court. Either way, it wouldn't be your fault. This is exactly why Nintendo was able to do what it's doing and why patent trolls exist to begin with. But if you thought this was bad, then wait till you see what Nintendo's doing at the same time. Yes, believe it or not, it does get more ridiculous. Nintendo has always hated mods, even though they're created by players and have no affiliation with the games themselves. They've always made it a point to target the game developers themselves as if they were the ones to make mods that infringe on their copyrights. Something completely unreasonable that has always pissed off people who valued creative freedom, especially in the modding community. While you see, one of the very creative ways Palworld is pursuing Nintendo's patent claims is by showing that the things being presented in the patent were already done by people beforehand. This is the easiest way to invalidate a patent. One of those prior examples that Palworld is pushing is a mod called Pocket Souls for Dark Souls 3 that uses an extremely similar mechanic to their whole Pokeball patent. Even though it's not a standalone game and a mod, it's showing that someone already came up with this idea back in 2020, even though the parent lawsuit of the Pokeball mechanic was made in 2021. This technically goes against what a patent is. You're not the first one that came up with the idea, even if you just so happen to be the first person to actually file a patent for it. It doesn't work that way. Well, what was Nintendo's argument here? Mods aren't real games. This is coming from the same company that has personally taken down mods for other games and its own games for copyright infringement. This is very clearly showing us that they have such a hate boner for Pocket Pair that its own lawyers are starting to self-destruct. I mean, now in Japan, they're in a catch-22 situation. They either admit that mods are actual games and invalidate their patent, or they don't, and they invalidate all the lawsuits of people who are making mods of their copyrighted material in other games. It's a lose-lose situation. That's how clouded by hate they are right now in regards to Palworld. It's ridiculous. I mean, by this point, it doesn't take a genius to understand this is an injustice going on right before our very eyes. How can Nintendo keep getting away with this? And are you, the viewer, just meant to sit down in despair watching this all unfold without being able to do anything? Well, no, you can do something, and believe me, people have tried. In anticipation of the Nintendo Switch 2 consoles coming out, many people have vowed to boycott over Nintendo's anti-consumer practices, since they essentially want to monopolize anything that has to do with capturing cute creatures in a game. Well, the console released, and it ended up selling over 3.5 million units worldwide in its first 4 days, becoming the fastest-selling Nintendo hardware ever globally. Yeah, that boycott failed spectacularly, and this happened in the middle of their Palworld lawsuit. It seemed like Nintendo was hated worldwide over its anti-consumer practices, but at the same time, nothing could stop them from selling pretty much anything. But hold on, before you fall back into utter despair, I have some good news. Recently, we've come to find that the invincible Nintendo actually has a very big weakness. That's right, they have their own version of kryptonite, the one thing that scares them and can take them down, and the way we found this out recently was in one of the most unexpected ways possible. On September 23, 2025, the Department of Homeland Security of the United States of America would post a video compilation of illegal immigrants, or as they like to call them, illegal aliens, being arrested. The caption was, "Gotta catch 'em all." The music playing was the music from the Pokemon show, and if that wasn't enough, in between cuts of people being arrested, they would start showing footage from the anime itself. Oh, and to really drive the point home, they would also create literal Pokemon cards of some of the people being arrested, giving them all 1 HP, showing the word illegal on the top left, and their description would be the crime that they committed. The official Customs and Border Protection account of the United States would also reply to this post with a gif of Pikachu saying, "Border Patrol's newest recruit." Now look, this was absolutely unprecedented, right? I don't think a government has ever so openly infringed on copyright like this on such a massive scale. But there we had it, right in front of our eyes. The reactions, of course, just like anything political in the United States, were mixed.
All right. That's going to be it for the stream. Good luck upon watching, and see you next time.